Thanks for tuning in to our partner webinar brought to you by the National Association of Nutrition Professionals. This webinar is part of our NANP's partnership program, bringing you the latest information, education, products, and services from the holistic nutrition and wellness space. These webinars are recorded from a live event with a Q&A session for the attending audience. We hope you find this information useful and consider including our partners and their offerings in your life.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to NANP's webinar featuring Nicole Hodson, Executive Director of the NANP. I am your host, Tiffany Perry, Development Specialist for the NANP. These webinars are recorded and can be viewed by registrants. We will send you a link to the webinar later this week. We do ask that you would please drop any questions that you have at any time in our Q&A box, and Nicole will be happy to answer them as we go along, and I'll help her keep an eye on those as well. Okay, let's get started. Today we present Taking Your Career to the Next Level with BCHN and CDSP credentials with Nicole Hodson. She's a graduate of Bowman College and has been a member of the NANP team for over 18 years. After significantly improving her and her husband's health through Whole Foods nutrition, Nicole left the managed healthcare industry to pursue a career where she could affect more positive change. She has been with the NANP since 2007. Her passion for the industry is infectious, and she has made it her life's mission to promote Whole Foods nutrition and those who teach it in every way possible. Nicole is wholly dedicated to putting holistic nutrition professionals to work and to protecting their right to practice. When she's not working, you'll find Nicole in the kitchen. A dedicated foodie, she's continuously honing her cooking skills. Nicole loves living in Northern California's golden wine country with the love of her life and their toy poodle, Louie. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi there. Thank you, Tiff, for that wonderful introduction. Hello to everyone who is there and everyone who couldn't be with us in this moment and who's watching the recording later. I'm thrilled to be able to share with you all what I know about our two credentials that we offer through the NANP. As the Industry Association for Holistic Nutrition Professionals, we take our role very seriously, and therefore we offer not one any longer, but now two credentials that you can take advantage of and to add to your titles as you work your way through our industry. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is our board certified in holistic nutrition. Hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. Tiffany, are you seeing my screen okay?
I can see it just fine.
Beautiful. Thank you. And so for the board certification, which we affectionately refer to as the BCHN, I want to start by busting a little bit of a myth. There's sometimes the misunderstanding that in order to become a member of the NANP, you have to become board certified. That is not true. In order to sit for the board exam, to apply to take the board exam, you are required to become a professional member of the NANP, and that's because our professional members are vetted. We know what kind of an education you've had, and we can understand that you should be qualified to be able to comfortably sit for this exam and pass this exam. So if you're not currently a member and you're interested in membership, I just want to direct everyone. There are a couple of different ways that you can get to this information. You can hit join today here. You can go to our membership menu and you can go to join today. NANP offers 3 different levels of membership. Of course, our professional membership, which we just talked about, and these are folks who have graduated from nutrition school or people who have a different kind of credential already, but who fall in line with the educational standards that we have for professional membership. And so if you would like to know more about that, I encourage you to go to our website, go to membership categories, and then hit more details. And that'll tell you all about what it takes in order to qualify for that level of membership. Then we also have, I'm going to try not to make everyone dizzy. I'm going to try to go slow here. We also have our student membership. Of course, we're in the nutrition industry, so people who are in nutrition school will qualify for student membership in the NANP. And so if you're going to one of our NANP approved schools, you qualify to become a student member. And again, if you have a question about that, I would recommend that you go to our website, go to more details to learn about that. For professional members and for student members, if you're unsure about that, I recommend that you reach out to our member relations department. You can reach Danny Gibbs. She is at info@nanp.org, and she's happy to answer your questions about membership. But if you're a professional, you think you might qualify for professional membership and you haven't gone to one of our approved schools, but maybe you've gone to a different school, or maybe you've gone a little bit to this school and a little bit to that school, and you're just not quite sure if you qualify, we do have a process called an independent educational review. Andrea Granson, who's been with the NANP for over a decade, is our educational program specialist, and she's happy to take a look at your transcripts and compare those to our educational standards to see if you do qualify for professional membership. So there is that option. There's a little fee associated with it because, of course, it takes time for our staff. We do charge a tiny fee for that, but it's well worth it if you're uncertain about whether you qualify or not. Then our third level of membership is associate membership. And associate membership is for people who are, maybe you're a health coach, maybe you're a massage therapist, maybe you're a psychologist. It's within your legal scope to talk about nutrition with your clients or with your patients. You can qualify for associate membership in the NANP. And again, I would encourage you to go to more details and learn all about that. So, what does it take to be able to qualify to sit for the board exam in holistic nutrition? First thing is you have to become a professional member of our association. And there is an application process involved. And so when you're looking at why would I want to become board certified? First of all, most every profession in the healthcare system has a board certification. Doctors are board certified, nurses are board certified. And so it's important for us as members of the healthcare community to also have a board certification. And so what certification brings to the table is it offers you an added level of credibility above the title that you earned at school. It tells your clients that you have insurance. It tells them all kinds of information about you that's important for them to know that they can trust you. They can put their trust in you. It certainly validates your education. I'll say this, and I mean it 100%. The board exam is not easy. It shouldn't be easy. It's a board exam. It should be hard, but it's not inaccessible. You can do it. You should study hard. But people pass this exam. Our current rate is an 82% pass rate. That's pretty darn good. Okay. So it can be passed. You should study, and it validates your education. It shows that you have reached the pinnacle of your education and that you've passed a very hard exam in our space. Once you do that, it's going to give you a whole lot of confidence. I will never forget, we had a former NANP president who sat for our board exam, and she called me as soon as she finished the exam. And she said, "Nicole, that was hard, but I think I did good." And she did. She passed the exam with flying colors. She did beautifully. But it made me feel very proud to know that here is someone at the height of our industry who found our exam to be a challenge. That's what we want. We don't want an easy exam. And then it'll open doors for you. One of my favorite stories is we have a member who is board certified, who was one of over 400 candidates for a job working directly with one of the celebrities in our space. I don't feel comfortable sharing his name, but it's someone that we all, I'm sure, see out there in the world and have probably seen him lecture repeatedly and probably follow him on social media. He hired her out of over 400 applicants. And one of the main reasons that he cited was her BCHN credential. That's what this can do for you. So it's really important that you understand why this would be something that you would want to pursue. I want to take a moment to talk about something that's very important. There's a whole section on this page of our website, which, by the way, is nanp.org/board-certification. We went through a tremendous amount of effort and expense to get our title, Board Certified in Holistic Nutrition, BCHN, trademarked through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Why is this important? It's important for a number of reasons. First of all, we didn't want anybody stealing the title. And to my shock and dismay, so far, since we became registered with the USPTO, we've actually had to issue 2 separate notifications to 2 organizations that had tried to use our title. Our attorneys wrote letters, they stopped using it, and because it was creating confusion in the space. It wasn't our credential. When you become board certified, it is incredibly important that you use this little, beautiful little R inside the circle. That tells people that you have the official BCHN title, that you have passed the board exam, and our rigorous credentialing process, which I will touch on later. And so I just wanted to mention this. I think it's very important. The other thing that this title does for you is we have been seeing legislation that has been introduced across our country in various states where specific titles for nutrition have been plucked out by competing associations, and they're trying to write it into law to say you can't use that title. However, what we've been successful in doing in our Legislative Affairs Division is getting language into those bills that says, but if you have a registered trademarked title like BCHN, you can use that title. You can work at your scope of practice in that state. Very important. So if you're in a state that has prohibitive laws, you're going to want to make sure that you pursue being board certified in holistic nutrition so you can protect your ability to practice in that state. Very important. So if you're interested in understanding which credential is right for you, we have some information for that here. Let's talk about applying and preparing for the board exam. So we offer for free our board exam study guide. I highly recommend that you get that. And here's the kicker, folks. Please read it. Read the whole thing from beginning to end. Understand everything that we're saying in that book because it will answer all of your questions about taking the exam, the environment that you're going to have for the exam, which is proctored. When you take the exam, you're actually going to take it from home or from your office. You're going to need to be at a desk, and you're going to log into a proctoring site where you will be observed while you're taking the board exam in the comfort of wherever you want to take it from. As long as you're at a desk, that's going to be important. And so understanding what's in the study guide, understanding what you should get in terms of materials to practice or to study rather for the board exam, all of that is contained in the board exam study guide. In addition to that, We also provide you with sample questions, very important. So make sure you download a copy of the free study guide. There are other forms here that you're going to need. There is an application for the board exam. And again, first, professional member of NANP, then you can apply to sit for the board exam. We do require 500 contact hours. Okay, don't freak out. What that means is 250 of those hours have to be direct contact with your client. And that doesn't mean all of those hours are face-to-face with your client. What that means is that emails that you're exchanging with your client or the face-to-face that you're having, maybe you're doing group classes, all of those hours count as what we call direct contact hours. You have to have 250 of those. The other 250 can be what we call indirect contact hours. Those are the hours that you spend researching for your client, putting handouts together for your client, putting presentations together. Those are what we consider indirect contact hours. So a combination of those two with minimally 250 of those being direct, that's your 500 contact hours that we're going to require. What if you're a new graduate? A new graduate actually has a special designation, okay? And so if you have graduated within the last 12 months, we refer to you as a new grad. And a new grad has a little bit of leeway on earning your contact hours because we understand you're in school, you're not practicing yet. How are you going to get all those hours? So for new grads, we will give you 2 years from the date that you sit for the board exam and pass the board exam. You get 2 years from that date in which to collect and submit to us your contact hours. So it's a sweet deal. You can take the exam as soon as you graduate from school, which I highly recommend. And I recommend that for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're used to studying. Number two, the information is fresh in your mind. Number three, you may have people that you've gone through school with that you can form a study group with. Who better to study with than the people that you just graduated with? So I highly recommend thinking about sitting for the board exam soon after you graduate from nutrition school. And again, you get that new grad status, which gives you 2 years from the date that you pass the exam to provide to us your contact hours. Okay. We also have a form for internships and externships, which also those hours will go toward contact hours. So there's a form here that you can download. And if you have graduated from a program that is a bachelor's or above, so for me, I went to Bowman College. I have a certificate in nutrition. So this doesn't apply to me. I have a bachelor's, but it's not in nutrition. The folks who have a bachelor's and above can also get an added credential, which is called Certified Nutrition Professional. They have more hours that are required of them. And so we have a special form that they would need to fill out in order to qualify for that additional credential. And so there's a lot of information here on our website. I really encourage you to go to our website, go to this page. Now I'm on nanp.org/board exam in holistic nutrition. And you can find all of this information here. Okay. In big bold letters, we suggest downloading your free board exam study guide and preparing for the exam at least 6 months in advance. So I'm a new grad. I've got all my buddies. All the information is really fresh in my mind. I want to take the board exam. I think I should schedule this exam 6 months after I graduate. That gives me plenty of time to really study because the material that you're going to study for the board exam might be a little bit different than the material that you studied in school. Every single question on NANP's board exam has been sourced from the books and the links that we recommend for studying for the board exam. Every single question. You're not going to want to go out and find information on the web. Here's what we know about nutrition. Sometimes there's contradictory information out there. Is soy good? Is soy bad? It can be a toss-up. Because we wanted to be able to really validate our board exam, every question has been sourced from those books. So even if you found something that's contradictory to something that's in those books, use the answer from the book, okay? You won't pass the exam if you're using information that comes outside of the material that we're recommending that you study, okay? All right, so we have a page that I really recommend everybody visit and read through the whole thing. Again, just like your study guide, read through the FAQs page. This will answer a lot of questions that you might have about the board exam. First of all, do I qualify? What's the application process? What are the fees? What are contact hours, which we just talked about? I'm a new grad. We'll explain that a little bit too. What's the best way to study? Where do I go to take the exam? What is ProctorU? That's our proctoring service. When can I take the exam? How much time? We allow 3 hours for you to take this board exam. I will tell you that on average, people finish our board exam comfortably within an hour and a half. We give you the 3 hours because not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody takes exams the same way. So we do pad that time. You have plenty of time to take this exam and pass it. We do have some ADA accommodations we can make if you have a formal diagnosis by a licensed practitioner. Can I use notes or my books? The answer is no. This is not an open book. No notes, no books. Passing grade is 70%. Exam results, these come out pretty quickly. Danny's very good about letting people know because we understand you're sitting on pins and needles. Can I retake the exam if I fail? This is one that I wanted to talk about. If you fail the board exam, you can take it 2 more times, okay? I strongly recommend that if you fail the exam, please don't get discouraged, okay? Not everybody passes the first time around. Take it again. You're going to want to take it within 6 months. All the knowledge that you had and that you did do well on the exam with, you don't want to lose that. So go back, study the areas where you need extra help. If you want to know which domains you need to study more in, Danny can certainly tell you that. If you fail twice, you can retake it a third and final time. You can only take this exam a total of 3 times. That's it. 3. Only 3. We don't require proof of additional education to take it the 3rd time, but I got to tell you, I strongly recommend it. If you fail this exam twice, you probably should think about getting some additional education, okay? Pardon me. I just wanted to go over that with everyone. What title do you use after passing the exam? I'm going to take a real quick drink here. You will always use the title that you earned in nutrition school first, comma, and then additional credentials that you've earned. So for me, I graduated from Bowman College with a nutrition consultant certificate. My title when I sign my name is Nicole Hodson, comma, NC for nutrition consultant, comma, BCHN with the beautiful little R in the circle, comma, CDSP TM. And we're going to talk about that one next. Okay. Do I need to renew my certificate? So yes, we do recertify you. You will have to go through that process, but here's the great news. Once you pass the board exam, you don't ever have to take it again. You are golden. You are done. Now, what's the recertification? We'll talk about this too. What we will ask for every 2 years is that you provide a copy of your current resume or CV, proof of liability insurance if you are practicing, okay? Let's say you're not practicing, you teach at one of our schools or you teach somewhere else or you work at a supplement company where working with clients or anything like that, we can waive that requirement. You just need to let Danny know. Complete the board recertification form, which will be provided to you upon recredentialing time. And again, if you're a candidate, which is a new grad who passed the exam, we're going to be looking for those 500 contact hours to get you recertified. So I want to talk a little bit about what happens after you take the exam and you pass it, because I think this is really important for everyone to understand. In my former life, before I came to the NANP, I worked in the managed healthcare industry. And one of the things that I did is I ran a national credentialing division on behalf of a mental health plan. My job was to oversee a staff of people who did something called credentialing, our providers, our mental health doctors, psychologists, all of the different levels of people who work in the managed mental health industry. The credentialing process takes place traditionally at hospitals, medical groups, IPAs, which are independent physician associations. That's usually where the credentialing process takes place. And what it means is that there's someone on the other end working at the health plan, working at the hospital, working at a medical group that is looking at your qualifications and making sure that their very extensive checklist gets checked off. They have copies of your degrees or certificates. They understand that you're up on all of your continuing education credits. They make sure that your license is valid. If you're a licensed practitioner, they make sure that your DEA license is up to par if you are licensed and you're dispensing medications. And then they do this thing called checking the National Practitioner Data Bank. The National Practitioner Data Bank is a centralized data bank for all practitioners in the United States where any adverse event is reported. So if a practitioner has a malpractice suit brought against them, the organization that they belong to is responsible for reporting that information to the NPDB. If there is an adverse report against or a complaint against a DEA license, that gets reported to the NPDB. When the board exam in holistic nutrition was formulated, the president and the board of directors of the NANP at the time felt it was very important for public trust that the NANP take on the role of credentialing people who passed our board exam. That's how Nicole entered the NANP. I had just finished school at Bowman College. I was looking to get out of that industry and get into this one. They opened a job for someone who could manage the board certification. I had the credentialing background and I brought those practices with me to the NANP. So after you pass the board exam, we will put you through the same rigors that practitioners who are licensed, who have DEA licenses, who work at hospitals and prisons and other facilities, will put you through the same paces. We will check the National Practitioner Data Bank to ensure that there are no adverse reports against you. And if there's nothing there, then you are golden and you are now board certified in holistic nutrition. So I think that it's important for you to understand this process so that if you have clients who ask you, what is that certificate on your wall? Or I saw this on your website. What does that mean? You can explain that you have checked off every single box. You've passed a very rigorous board exam. And on top of that, you've been through the full credentialing process that normally takes place at hospitals, medical groups, or any other type of institution where a practitioner might belong, okay, or might work, okay? I want to open it up at this point. I've been talking for a while now. Tiffany, I want to check in to see if we have any questions yet about anything that I've talked about.
We currently do not have any questions, but yes, if anyone does have any, please feel free to drop them out there in our Q&A box, and we'll be happy to get them answered for you.
All right. Fantastic. Tiffany, have I left anything else? Have I left anything out? Can you think of anything that I should talk about related to the board exam?
Oh, I think that was pretty good. I know I'm interested in hearing a lot more about the CDSP, so you may see a little bit more questions come out.
Okay, very good. We're gonna move on to certification number 2, which is our Certified Dietary Supplement Professional exam. A funny little story. Gosh, I guess it was 2013. Out of nowhere, I got a call from a gentleman who was working at Whole Foods. And he said, I'm part of a task force at Whole Foods where we are looking to improve our customer service. And this task force is specifically looking at what was then, I think it still is, referred to as our whole body department, which is where they sell dietary supplements. And he said, what our task force has learned is that our wine department is performing very well. And we believe that's because a few years ago, we started sending people who worked in our wine department to sommelier school. And they learned so much about wine, and then they brought that back to the company. And they were talking with our customers, and they were actually able to sell a lot more wine. We would like to apply the same model to our Whole Foods, our whole body department. And we are interested in finding a national organization like the NANP to develop an exam that we could put people through so that they could become experts on dietary supplements. We believe we would sell a lot more supplements. Would NANP be interested? I took that question to our board of directors and they said, that's a brilliant idea. We really like that. Let's do this thing. So we started down the road of developing this certified dietary supplement professional, believing that we would have this beautiful partnership with Whole Foods. Enter Amazon purchased Whole Foods. My sweet contact over at Whole Foods was let go. The task force was demolished, and that project fell off for them. But it didn't fall off for NANP because we really did believe that this is something that is needed in our space that does not currently exist. Now, some of you may be thinking, but there's supplement companies that have something similar. Yes. What's different? I will tell you that what's different is that if you take a program like this from a supplement company, and I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that it won't be a good program, not in the least, it will be brand specific. They're going to train you to sell their brand. Of course, this CDSP exam is not brand specific. It will teach you everything that you need to know about dietary supplements, but not a specific brand. There's a big difference, an important difference, right? So let's talk a little bit about it. Who is this right for? If you sell dietary supplements in your practice, maybe you want to shout it from the mountains to your clients that, hey, I know a ton about this and you can trust me because I know so much about it. If you work in a retail setting where there are dietary supplements being sold, again, you want to be able to take that to your employer and say, or potential employer and say, I know a lot about this topic. Look at my certificate. If you are working as a rep for a supplement company, what a great credential to have behind your name. And again, this is an opportunity to open doors. So we're back to the same thing we talked about a little bit ago with board certification is credibility, assurance, validation, and your membership in a professional association. Very important. So who qualifies to take this exam? First and foremost, if you are a professional member of the NANP, you qualify. Done. Check it off your list. You already qualify to sit for this exam, okay? Because we know that the education that you have from your school provided you a very strong foundation in this content matter, okay? But what if you're not a member of the NANP and you want to take this exam? Here's where this exam is different from the board exam. For the board exam, you have to be a professional member to even qualify. For this exam, if you are not a member of the organization yet, you can take this exam. Now, once you pass the exam, you have to become a member. You have to be a member of the organization. You can become an associate member and carry the CDSP credential. You can do those two things because we recognize that people who work as allied health professionals or do other types of health delivery in our space might be able to also legally talk about dietary supplements with their clients. If you are not a nutrition professional, if you are not going to nutrition school, if you're, say, a health coach or some other type of profession, I really ask you to please check your scope of practice. There are some professions where talking about dietary supplements is not in your scope of practice legally, and I really don't want to see anybody get in trouble, okay? So check it, make sure, all right? There is one particular school that currently offers an education in dietary supplements. And so I just want to quickly go over what the requirements are for this. It's only an 8-credit program, okay? This is a quick, you can get in and out of this thing very quickly, all right? And so there's some anatomy, physiology, and biochem. There's some nutritional support of the body. There's sports nutrition, which includes all the body systems, nutraceuticals, of course, and then the biggie, legal responsibilities and supplement quality, okay? And I stop here because I wanted to share an experience that I had recently with you. I was invited to be a part of an employer summit with one of our schools, and they had employers from all different aspects of the wellness industry. Some of them actually worked for some very large companies that do a lot of hiring. And the first question that they asked was, what do you look for when you're hiring someone who will talk with your customers about things like dietary supplements or anything nutrition related? The number one answer, and it was funny because people were talking over each other, which I didn't expect. The number one answer was, I'm looking to hire people that aren't going to get my company in trouble. I want to hire people that aren't going to put me in a liable or my company in a liable position by making false claims. That's why this piece is so important, right? Is that you understand the legalities around making dietary supplement recommendations. So I just wanted to show this to everyone because I think it's really important that we understand why it's so important, right? That you get the education that people are going to be looking for when they're looking to hire you. Let's talk about the application a little bit, just like what we did before. This explains what it takes to apply for. It's actually very affordable. That was another thing that came from the conversations that we had with Whole Foods way back when, is it has to be an affordable price point because at the time they were planning on actually having the company pay for this. So the application is only $50. The exam is only $100. What we're going to need is a copy of your diploma or your certificate. We've got a couple of documents you'll need to sign. We want to see your driver's license to make sure that the person who takes the exam is you, and then your official transcripts. And so I had mentioned that there's only one school currently that's offering an educational program that teaches to this specific exam. And so you might be asking yourself, why can't I take a course through the NANP? And this applies to both the board exam and the CDSP exam. In the industries where certifications are offered through an association, it is highly frowned upon for that organization to also offer the education to pass their exam. It's a conflict of interest, right? So we don't do that. We offer the exam, and then we encourage you to go and get your education elsewhere. So currently, American College of Healthcare Sciences has a program that specifically teaches to all of those standards that we were just looking at to pass the CDSP exam. I highly recommend you check out this program. Again, the price point is exceptional. I think it's just under $500 to take this entire program. So take a look at it, understand what's involved. Let's say you're already a professional member of NANP. You just want to kind of hone your skills a little bit, maybe get a little extra. We do have, this is for continuing education, okay, not to be confused with foundational education. Designs for Health does offer a dietary supplement specialist certification program. Again, this is going to be brand specific, okay? They're going to teach you to sell Designs for Health products, but it is a strong program. I'm already a professional member. Maybe I really just want to like a brush up. This could be a good option for you, okay?
Oh, we do have a couple questions here. Is that okay to ask you now?
Yeah, please.
Catlin was asking, she said, I graduated last June from NTI. I also have a certified holistic certification from AFAP. She did well in both schools, but went through some tragic events that affected her memory. She had to take off 6 months of work to focus on mental health. I'm working now. I really want to get my BCHN. I was just wondering, what is the best option for her to study for the exam? I noticed I have to work a bit harder to remember things than I usually do, which is difficult, but she's getting better through therapy. I downloaded the study guide 6 months ago, thinking she would take the exam as a recent graduate, but could not.
So first of all, I'm very sorry to hear what you've been through, and I'm happy to hear that you're on the road to recovery. I would suggest if you're the type of person who does well in a group setting, I highly recommend joining a study group. And you can do that through the NANP. If you go to your My NANP portal, there is an option to look at groups, and there is a board exam study group that you can join. And in there, you'll find conversations about study groups that are either forming, or maybe you can even invite other people and say, look, I'm getting ready. I'm planning on taking the exam X months out or whenever you're planning on taking it, and see if other people are interested. Here's the thing about a study group, especially with an exam like this. You can chop up the information and everybody takes sections of the information and study them, take copious notes, and then share them with each other so that you're not trying to go through that part of the process just by yourself, okay? So I really encourage you to consider joining a study group. I also understand that I haven't tried it myself yet, but I understand they're very good, that there are programs out there online where you can develop flashcards for yourself. I would suggest, again, breaking the information down into pieces. When you look at our study guide, each domain will tell you which key concepts you're going to want to study. You got to hit those points, okay? Now, the board exam is structured in a way where it has a bank of questions, if you will, that are randomly selected for each person who takes the exam, because that makes it so that not everybody's taking the exact same exam, right? So it's randomly selecting. You may not always get a question that has each and every key concept, but studying them is very important in case you do.
And Nicole, how much feedback do people get about their BCHN test results, regardless of pass or fail, since we're speaking about testing?
Yeah, you can certainly ask. We will tell you if you passed or failed. If you would like additional information about how you did in each domain, Danny can provide you with that information. So like maybe you did great in domains 1, 3, and 5, and you really just need to study 2 and 4. She'll tell you where you landed in terms of your percentages.
Okay. And does CDR recognize the certificate and credentials for registered dietitians for continuing education?
Not at this point, to the best of our knowledge.
Got it. Okay. And Laura asks, there was a class from Energetic Health Institute that claimed to help you pass the BCHN. Is this a good class or is there a class that can be taken?
That is an excellent question. I'm really glad that someone asked that question. The NANP, I think I mentioned this earlier, we take our standards extremely seriously. And what that means is we need to see and understand everything that is offered in any program that we push out to you as our members and the broader community. If we haven't had a chance to see what's in a program, we can't speak to the validity of it. Unfortunately, the program at Energetic Health Institute was not submitted to the NANP. We don't know what's in it, and we cannot say that it is approved. We can't say anything about it. We don't know what's in it. So I would suggest there is one program that I would suggest, and that's through Holistic Consulting. They have an entire mentorship program around preparing you for the board exam. I would highly recommend taking a look at that. They have very strong pass rates. Okay. And if you do look at Holistic Consulting, ask them. They will tell you what their pass rates are. Okay. So that's the direction I would recommend if you're looking for a program that will help you study for the board exam.
And Denise asks, she actually says there are 7 or 8 books suggested to study for the exam. Certainly we can't memorize the large books. Is there suggestions of how to use these books efficiently for study?
Yeah, great question. Again, I would say have your study guide for each domain. It's going to give you a list of key concepts to study. Look for those concepts in those books. Study what is there that relates to those key concepts. And again, flashcards, studying with other people, quizzing yourself, quizzing each other. That would be the route that I would recommend.
And that's all the questions that we have for right now.
I see that Catlin has her hand up. Did we address all of your questions, Catlin?
I don't have any raised hands.
Okay.
We do now have a question from Tracy. It said, I received my PhD from Clayton College of Natural Health. I would like to become a professional member and sit for the exam.
Yes, Clayton College was one of our approved schools way back when. And if your PhD is in nutrition, then do submit that as proof for eligibility for professional membership in the NANP.
Okay. And Caitlin said, yes, she's all good to go.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So we were looking at the program there at ACHS. And again, for the CDSP, we do have the exam FAQs that I'm going to recommend that people take a look at. We do have a study guide for this exam as well. Again, please read it beginning to end, top to bottom, know what's there. Now, this talks about the costs associated, talks about membership, which we already discussed, and how to go about seeing if you qualify, the educational requirements, and where you can get your education, how to study, where you can find the CDSP study guide. There are a lot of links for studying for the CDSP exam. And again, for this exam, we wanted to make sure that we made it a really good price point. We tried to keep the number of books at a minimum and try to give as many free links as we could to just keep those costs down for you. About retaking the exam, and it is not an open book. It's timed. We want you to study in advance. How much time is allotted? We do allow 2 hours for this exam, and there will be 100 questions on the exam. Okay, and let's see.
We had a couple questions that came in.
Yes.
It says someone had to log off for a few minutes. How often is the BCHN offered?
That's a really good question. The BCHN is offered anytime you want to take it. That's the beauty of having moved it from back in the day when I came on board. Once upon a time, it was a paper booklet, and you had to actually go and find a proctor and sit down and schedule an exam. Now it's offered online, so you can take it at a time when it works for you. And ProctorU is available pretty much 24/7. So you can schedule this at really any time that you would like. What I would say is make sure that you can be at a desk. That is part of the requirement. Make sure that you have the ability to show the proctor a complete view of your space and really read through the study guide and read through everything that you get from us as comprehensively as possible before you sit down to take the exam. We unfortunately, sometimes people don't read what we send them. They find themselves in a deficit, or they can't even take the exam because they're sitting on a bed or they're sitting on the couch. ProctorU won't allow for that. You have to be at a desk. They have to be able to see everything that surrounds you. So just make sure that you are prepared, that your system is prepared for it, that your computer, everything is rocking and ready to go for it.
Laura asked, does any of this count for CE credits?
That's a really good question. That program that we talked about at Designs for Health, that is a CE program. The taking of the exam itself is not CE qualifying.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. We're getting short on time. You can retake the exam if you fail. There is a retake fee. Again, like the board exam, you could take this exam up to 3 times. And let's see, what title do I use after passing? Again, we are asking that you use your title that you earned from your school and then list your additional credentials. So if you take the CDSP, if you went to nutrition school like I did, for me, it would be Nicole Hodson, comma, NC, which I got from my school, comma, BCHN, comma, CDSP. Okay. All right. And then do I need to renew my certification? You don't have to take the exam again once you pass it. And there are continuing ed requirements for each of these certifications, right? This has to do again with our desire to standardize our industry at a very high level. And so we want to ensure that just because you pass the exam doesn't mean your education stops. You are continuing to learn, you're continuing to hone your skills. So there are continuing ed requirements for both of these exams, and I encourage you to go to the website and understand what those are. They're different for varying levels of membership associated with the CDSP specifically. And then for our professional members who are board certified, as a professional member, we ask that you have 10 CEs each year when you renew. But as a board certified professional member, we're looking for 15 each year. So it is a little bit higher. We're going to hold you to a higher standard, as should be. Any other questions before we say goodbye?
Let's just check the chat box here. Will the same CEs count for each credential?
The same. Yes. I think what I'm understanding the question is if you are CDSP on top of BCHN, you raise a really good question, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think Danny probably has the answer to that question, so please reach out to Danny on that one. I haven't been administering CEs for about a decade now. How she's applying those, she'll be able to answer that question.
Someone did say if they do have more questions about BCHN or CDSP, who do they contact? I had said me, Tiffany, for the CDSP, and if I don't know the answer, I can find out. But what about if they have detailed questions about the BCHN?
Yeah, I would say a lot of times, Tiffany, these questions also flow over to membership. What I would suggest is that they go to Danny on all of it. Yeah, let's have them talk to Danny. Danny Gibbs. Danny can be reached at info@nanp.org because so much of this will tie over with membership.
Both BCHN and CDSP?
Yeah.
Okay, Okay, so that's Danny Gibbs, and her information is located on our website.
Yes.
And then
yes.
Denise just wanted to give some positive feedback and said, thanks so much. This was a helpful review. And thanks to everyone asking questions. It was good for all of us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Denise. And thank you to everybody for being here today and asking your questions. And yeah, reach out to Danny if you have any questions, info@nanp.org.
Yes, and I do want to remind everybody that this presentation is being recorded and it can be viewed via the link that you will receive probably later this week.
Great.
See,
Thanks, everyone.
You have a great day, Nicole. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
The information presented in this webinar is for educational purposes only. Please note that holistic nutrition professionals do not diagnose, prevent, treat, cure, prescribe, manage, or heal diseases or medical conditions. They are also not licensed in any state and work with clients, not patients. There are no continuing education credits associated with this webinar.